To become a breakthrough queen, do you have to have like a coronation day? Do you get a crown? How did you become a breakthrough queen?
It wasn't my idea, actually. A couple of my clients that I had a few years back had had an issue that they'd been struggling with for years. And within a couple of sessions, we broke through that and their lives completely changed. And they both said, oh my goodness, you really are a breakthrough queen. So I then decided to just own that title and take it on as who I am, because a couple of my clients called me that. So yeah, nothing like spectacular, but I do actually have a little tiara that I got married in that I've actually done videos with my little crown on saying I am the breakthrough queen.
I love that. What I think is just like so poignant that's just come straight to me straight away is the fact that you didn't call yourself the breakthrough queen. From the results that your clients were receiving, they called you the breakthrough queen. And I just think it's one thing that I've always loved, that when it comes to your worth and your feeling like you're doing it for your purpose and so forth, it's like when you get the response back from your clients, it's like, oh, okay, this is like the work is being done and they're getting well, in your case, they're getting the breakthroughs. How does that feel for you when you're doing the work that you do?
Oh, it just feels absolutely amazing, because a lot of the people that come to me have been struggling with these things for absolutely years. And one of the things I think is now one of my kind of superpowers is that as a kid, I was always told that I was nosy because I'm always asking too many questions. But I like to call myself as curious, and I'm a bit like a detective. I'm very quick at working out what the real belief is that's holding people back. And it's often not the belief that they first come to me with.
Yeah.
So I'm really quick at like finding out what it is, and because I get really curious and ask the questions that nobody else tends to ask, and go quite deep with them. And once they realize what the belief is, they're aware of it, then we can work on how they want to change it and shift that belief so that they have a belief that helps them move forward rather than hold them back.
Amazing. I suppose we should ask the question, how is it that you work with your clients, and who do you work with?
Predominantly, I work one-to-one with female business owners that have hit kind of a level because they've pushed and pushed and pushed, but they've got to that stage where I can't push anymore and something needs to happen to change. But I've also worked with I've got quite a few male clients as well. But it's having that sort of thought that I really want to get to that next level, but I don't know what's stopping me from getting to that next level, or I think I know what's stopping me, but I don't know how to change that, because some of our beliefs are so ingrained, often from our childhood, often from, well-meaning parents and relatives or teachers that say things that we as children take as a completely the wrong way, because children see things very black and white. I've had a few clients come to me and say, I feel that I'm really stupid. I'm like, okay, what makes you say that? Well, because my auntie told my mum that she thought my sister was the clever one. So I must be the stupid one, because that's how kids see it. If one of you is clever, the other one, I'm like, okay, well, what about having two clever people in the family? And it's like, but they've carried that with them for like 40 odd years sometimes, some people have, and realised, oh, actually, I can think differently about it. So it's getting them to think differently about what they've heard as a young child and how they feel about themselves, because it's the belief in themselves that will hold them back. It's not what they want to do. It's how they feel about themselves.
When I was a kid, my science teacher, I probably shouldn't name him, Mr. Weeks, wrote on my school report, the problem is with Andrew, because at school I was always Andrew, the lights are on but no one's home. That was the opening line on my science school report. The fact of the matter is, your class was boring as shit and I wasn't interested.
Yeah.
But what I got from that is that, and it was only, I don't know if it was last year or the year before, I was at my mum's house. My mum said, oh, I've found some of your old school reports. And I was like, sure, do you want to have a look at them? And I looked at them, and doing the work that I've done myself, I read them and went, it's no fucking wonder people have limiting beliefs.
Yeah.
Because like, if you think about it on that level, what things were said to you at school, but also then what were then reconfirmed by your parents that you're your teacher says you're doing this, or your teacher said you did
Mm,
this, or, when actually, what if the class was just boring? Like, do you know what
exactly.
I mean? What if you just made it uninteresting? And I think there's so much in that, isn't there? That the things that we were told, I talk about the money stuff quite a lot, but my mum always says this, and she still says it now. As long as you've got enough money to pay the bills, that's all that matters.
Mm.
And I've had that from a child, from a child. That's the most, like, keeping the wolf from the door is the biggest priority. Was there a belief that you had when you were a kid that kind of stuck with you as an adult? I always find it interesting when other people say about their own maybe beliefs that they maybe have shifted or that changed.
I had loads because I unfortunately grew up with a narcissistic mother, and some people might find this quite hard to hear, but I've dealt with it now, so I'm okay. Okay, but I grew up hearing I was useless, worthless, I'll never amount to anything, nobody will ever love me, and I wish I died. She wished I died at birth. So you can imagine my belief system growing up.
Wow.
Yeah,
I can't imagine saying that to another human, let alone saying that to my own child. That's like,
yeah.
wow.
And that's why I'm so passionate about helping people with their belief system and finding out where it come from in their childhood. Because I understand now that my mother was dealing with her own stuff. But when she said it to me, I just thought it must be true because an adult said it. And I heard it daily as well. And it was one of those things, like if anything ever happened to school, like you said, she would say, well, what did you do to upset the teacher? Not, okay, that teacher might be wrong. And I talk about one of my clients in my book where she thought she was useless at maths because when she was 7, the teacher, she was writing on the board, this was back in the 70s, the teacher threw the board rubber at her and said, you're useless at maths because she got the sum wrong. And when she was in her 50s, she needed maths to get exam to get a promotion. So she called me in to help her with this belief about maths. And she was a very clever lady and she could do maths, but her belief was deep down that she was useless at it because this teacher told her that. So we worked on that, and she had to do a maths and an English exam. I said, would you want any help with the English? She went, no, I'm fine with English. And she phoned me up a few days later. She said, well, I've took both exams. She said, you're going to laugh. I flew through my maths exam, passed it with flying colours. She said, but I failed my English. She said, I should have got you to help with my English as well. But her thing was, I mean, because when we're younger, we haven't got that critical faculty to think, oh, maybe that teacher's having a bad day. Maybe he's had an argument with his partner. Maybe, the cat scratched him. Maybe he had a flat tire on the way. Maybe he's got money worries. Because children don't think like that. If somebody says to them, this is what you are, you go, oh, okay. Especially if you're feeling quite emotional, like with my client, because she was at the front of the classroom, she was kind of already in the spotlight and got embarrassed as well. So
Yeah.
her belief was, I'm useless at maths. And that's what she
Wow.
used to say all the time.
Yeah, it's actually heartbreaking, isn't it, when you actually think about these things that, you think, what did you say? She was 50, in her 50s, and
Yeah.
that this whole time she's had this belief, even though she hasn't got up every morning and go, I'm rubbish at maths.
Yeah.
But whenever something arises, she's maybe taken a little step back because she's had that belief that she is potentially rubbish at maths.
Yeah, it's constantly playing in the background. And I often think to ourselves, well, we don't let our computer run with old software running in the background. We update it regularly, but we don't think to actually update our own system, our own belief system, because sometimes what was going on in your childhood, I mean, especially if you're like, I work with a lot of people in their 40s and 50s and 60s, what happened in our childhood, things have changed a lot as well.
Yeah.
So we need to think about, okay, what's working for me now? And I'm not in the position to say, well, it's the parent's fault or the teacher's fault or wherever. It's where you are now and how you feel and where do you want to go. Let's find out what it is that's holding you back. Let's change how you look at it and feel about that. And let's work on a plan to move you forward, because we can't change what happened in the past. I mean, things that were said, I remember putting on a post a couple of days ago, when I was at school, if children kind of stepped out of line as such, we got clipped around the ear roll or had the cane or got the board rubber thrown at us. But that would never happen nowadays. But in the 70s, that was just the norm.
Yeah.
But it's working out how that's affected you and what it's affecting you in your life today, that's what I'm passionate about. And because I've changed my belief system from what I grew up with my mother, I now believe completely differently. I'm a best-selling author. I run a business. I'm a coach, a therapist. I'm a speaker. So I have done something. People do love me. People do care about me. So I know that it was just how she felt and what she was projecting. It wasn't anything about me. But as a kid growing up, I completely believed it. You know, I had no confidence, no self-esteem. I was very shy. I wouldn't say anything to anybody just in case I said something wrong and got into trouble later.
Yeah,
But
I was also called the class clown at school. Being a clown was one of my biggest desires as a kid. I wanted to go to circus school. I did juggling. I did unicycling. Absolutely loved it. But I was almost kind of mocked for what I wanted to be and who I wanted to be when I was a kid. I want to stroll back to that little moment where you just talked about the computer update, because I love that analogy, and it just made me think straight away that, just like, and weirdly, it's almost like we were meant to have this conversation today, because my MacBook has just told me that I need to do an update today. And I've gone, oh, what if this ruins everything else? What if it changed the parameters of this? Or what if it does this? Or what if it does that? And I think that's something that like really kind of comes across with people in the real world as well. It's, you know, the update in the software seems a bit scary because
yeah,
we don't like change. But I think also coming to someone like yourself or working with me or anyone in a therapy kind of environment of like, let's work on these things, can actually shift things so much quicker, which means that you can actually work on these processes really well. Is there something that, do you ever find that there's like a common thing that when you come to work with someone, that's like, do they have the same, I don't want to use the word excuses, but let's just say excuses, that they use of why they didn't come to you sooner? Because I think that's something that it's like the doctors in that,
yeah,
or should have gone in earlier. Yeah.
yeah. It is. It's that fear of the unknown, because they, you know, and I get it. For years, I used to say, I'm surviving, I'm fine. I don't want to touch that Pandora's box because I don't know what's going to come out and I don't know how I'm going to feel. And I didn't do it for years. I mean, a lot of my friends who knew me said, you know, do you think you should get some kind of therapy to deal with the stuff that you went through with your mum as a child? I'm like, I'm surviving, I'm fine. I'm just, you know, shutting that down and putting that over there. It's so yeah, I get that people don't want to because they don't know what's going to come out. But the thing is, because of the way I work, I know when I help them, because I do a lot of things about shifting stuff out of their bodies where the emotions have been suppressed, our bodies will only release what we're ready to deal with. Because, you know, people say, well, I haven't got time for that because I'm on this trajectory and I can't like waver from it and have a big wobble. I mean, when
Yeah.
I went through my therapy, it was like a tsunami of tears and snot fest. It was, you know, not a pretty sight, and it was exhausting. But afterwards, it was felt really, really cleansing, because crying is one way of shifting all the emotions and stuff out of your body. So yes, it can be scary. It's not a walk in the park. And I often talk about this when I post on social media and stuff, but it's worth it. And I often liken it to, I want you to imagine that you're a cake. To start off with, all the different ingredients are in separate little boxes, and that's how we do. We put, okay, well, I'm going to put that fear in that box, and I'm going to put that fear of rejection in that box. I'm going to put that fear of being judged in that box, and I'll just like kind of plod on. But when you make a cake, you have to put all those ingredients together, and it gets messy because you've got
Yeah.
a messy blob then. But
Yeah.
then once you've cooked the cake, it comes out something really delicious and fantastic that you can really enjoy. And that's how I liken us to, in a way that, yes, we're going to have to go through a bit of a messy stuff. It's harder for some people than the others, depending on what they've gone through. And some people will come to me and they're like, I've got this issue and I know where it come from, but I need to deal with it. And they deal with it quite matter of factly. And other people will just burst into tears. And I often have people say to me, well, I've had no trauma from my childhood, but it's an issue I've had at work. I'm like, oh, okay. And I can guarantee by a second session, they're in tears saying, oh my goodness, that actually stems from my childhood. And that's why I've ended up with the trauma at work. So, yeah, I understand that people are scared and they don't want to kind of rock the boat because like you said, when you're going to do an update on your computer, am I going to lose who I am? Am I going to lose the identity of the person I am? But actually what we're doing is shedding those layers of beliefs that we've inherited and that have been put on us over the years. And what we end up doing is discovering the beautiful diamond, as I often say, that's our true self underneath it all. And that's a beautiful thing to see.
Yeah, I love that. I don't know if do you listen to Davina McCall's podcast?
I have in the past, not recently though.
Her most recent episode, I think it was last week's episode, was with Peter Crone. And Peter Crone, at the end, she said, oh, I'm going to be really selfish because I've got Peter Crone in front of me. Can I ask you a question? And she went through this whole process with him. It's like about 15 minutes long. And I don't know about you, but if anyone cries, I could feel it. And like I have a thing that whenever anyone cries, I'm always like, oh God, I'm going to go as well. And I was driving out to an event in Birmingham last weekend and I was listening to it and it was about 15 minutes and Davina basically just talked about she had her, I'm not going to get the words completely right, but she had her surgery on her brain and she'd had something removed last year. And her partner had set up all these WhatsApp groups with her. So there was like the most amazing support that she had, right? But she was having this problem of unconditional crying, like she's uncontrollable crying, and she was just like, I can't control my crying. I'm like, and she said, I just felt, and she started crying, and bless her, it was a proper like like cry, and she said, I felt so alone. I felt so alone, and in like the little conversation, he brought it back to when she felt alone with her mum, when her mum, with her upbringing. And even then, you just went, that was such a pivotal shift for her that actually it wasn't about that. It was just, this was a time where she felt, yeah, obviously it's probably, I can't even imagine what she went through, but like amazingly scary and like frightening. But her mind had gone, we've been like this before. We've felt alone before. And that's where I think it's interesting that when it comes to these breakthroughs that you certainly have with people, that you can see that, you know, actually there's a lot of stuff that, and sometimes, you know, I know you talk about trauma, but it doesn't necessarily have to be like, oh my God, I was in a car crash and my parents were killed and, you know, I was taken over by Tarzan and lived in the jungle. I don't think that was real. I think I watched too much Disney this week. But it's one of those, isn't it? You know, you go through those moments where you actually could be something really, really tiny that's holding someone back.
Yeah, like my client I talked about, the teacher just saying you're useless at maths.
Yeah.
That set her on a different trajectory for the rest of her life until she came to me. And it's that when we think about it, what happens is when something happens when you're 6 or 7 and you don't process it and deal with it then, it doesn't get what I call date stamped to that date. It keeps going on. And every time something happens, like with Davina, it's like she's that 6-year-old again. So until you process that and deal with it and think, okay, yes, that happened to me when I was 6 years old. I mean, like with me, when I was younger, whenever my name was called, I was in trouble, whether I'd done anything or not, according to my mother. So up until the time I kind of dealt with my own stuff, if me and you were in a crowded room and you called my name, I'd look, oh my God, Andy's called me. Does he look angry? Does he look upset? What did I say to him last time? Was it something I said last time? And all these thoughts would be right, and I'd be go until he walked up to me and go, hello, Brooke. And I'd go, oh, okay, he's not angry. But now if you call my name, I'm like, oh, Andy wants to say hi. And that's all I think about. So it's like, and I work a lot with inner child reparenting, and I always say to describe it to people, our inner child runs a show if we haven't dealt with what we need to deal with. And I think the best way to describe it is like an inner child is a bit like a puppet master. When our inner child is feeling confident and feeling happy, that we can happily do whatever we want to do. Like you drive a car. So if I said to you, can you pop down the shopping and get a pint of milk, or maybe not after our early discussion, you'd say, yeah, okay, fine. If I said something to you that maybe if you'd come to me and said, okay, I want to do some speaking and I've got a gig, I've got to speak in front of a few people. And I said to you, right, quickly, somebody's cancelled, go speak in front of 5,000 people. You'd probably go, okay. And your body would react and it would click on to say, okay, something's not safe. And what I work with is like a part will come in to protect your inner child and say, okay, we're going to procrastinate. And procrastination will kick in really quickly because your inner child is going, I don't feel safe. I don't feel good enough. I don't feel worthy to do that thing. So let's procrastinate instead. Or self-sabotage. A lot of people suddenly say, oh, I can't, my throat's suddenly gone really, like I think I'm getting a cold. And it's your inner child controlling the show. And that's what happens if we don't process and deal with the things that happen to us when we're 6 or 7 years old. Our inner child is still running that show. Our computer system, as we talked about earlier, is still running like we're a 6-year-old.
I love that. One thing that's really just stuck straight in my mind there is I'm the opposite. And that's probably something that maybe I need to work on. And I've always thought this. Andy, you need to go and stand in front of 5,000 people, 10,000, 200,000. Yeah, let's go. I'm doing it. Don't get me wrong. My adrenaline's going to be thumping. But Brooke says to me, I've got 2 people here who want to hear you speak, Andy. Can you do your talk? Nope, not doing it. Because when I was a kid, I would say, and this is me just thinking on the spot now, I used to hate that one-to-one focus on me. It was like if we had like a classroom assistant in the school, or my mum was a classroom assistant, so my mum was always looking over my shoulder, and it was almost that it's that judgy thing, isn't it? Yeah. And for me, give me a crowd of people. I'm a musician as well, so give me a crowd of people. I feed off the energy of the room. I know what that feels like, and even now I'm like, oh, like, Brooke, where is this 5,000 people? Let's go. But like, honestly, you say the 2 people to me and I go, oh, I don't, that's mad, right?
Yeah. And that's the fear of judgment. And it's come from like when you was at school and probably having your mum look over your shoulder and her with good intention, like making sure you're doing everything right and stuff like that. And our parents do things with good intention, because they've got their own inner child and their own inner child wants to feel like they're being a good parent and doing the good things. So they do the things like, don't speak until you're spoken to, just be quiet. Their children should be seen and not heard.
I used to love that one. My grandparents used to say that one.
Good girls don't get angry.
Boys don't cry.
Yeah.
Big boys don't cry.
Yeah. Good girls aren't boisterous. So we grow up thinking, okay, to fit in and be accepted by our parents, because that's, again, something we need to be able to be accepted by our parents because we can't survive without them. We conform to what they want, but that shrinks us. I can remember the exact day that I shrank and became a very unconfident child, which is another story probably for another day. But I was a very, very, very determined when I was really, really young, and then my mother kind of basically knocked it out of me, and I just shrunk, but now I'm the confident person I always was, but it was buried for years because it wasn't safe to show that side of me, I thought, as a child, because I had to survive my childhood. Yeah. And it's understanding that's why we do these things. People don't post things what they really want to post on social media because they've got a fear of rejection or a fear of judgment are the 2 of the biggest things. Because
I think we need to touch on that, don't we, Brooke? Was it 365 days you did posting on social videos? Yeah. What was the idea behind that, and why did you do it?
Well, it started off because last July, not this one, 24, I decided to be consistent on LinkedIn because I had a love-hate relationship with LinkedIn up until then because I didn't really know how it worked.
So is it love or hate now?
It's definitely love. I absolutely love LinkedIn. Yeah. And then it was the time that in August, they brought out that video thing and were really encouraging videos. So I love a challenge because I wrote and published my book in 90 days. So I thought, right, I'll challenge myself to do, and videos for me are no problem. But I thought, what will really stretch me? I thought doing a video for 365 days, that's going to really stretch me. So that's what I did. And, you know, because I wanted to like get consistent on LinkedIn, raise my visibility and let people know who Brooke was behind the business, because obviously, as we've talked about, I deal with quite heavy stuff, but I wanted people to see that actually I'm actually a fun character and I enjoy having a laugh, and it's not going to be really just boring, heavy going stuff working with me. We're actually going to have these breakthroughs and we're going to laugh and have some fun along the way as well. So that's why I dressed up in monkey outfits, wore different coloured wigs, and even wore a colander on my head one day, all related to beliefs and things about, you know, people, oh, you know, you can't do that. What will people think? I'm like, no, I'll do a video about it and see what happens, you know.
That's amazing. That's amazing. So tell me a little bit more about the book then. 90 days to do the book. I mean, I've had a book in my mind for about 25 years. I think the title's changed about 5 times. The content's changed about 500 times. Why 90 days? And obviously it worked. So tell me more, because I want to know more.
Yeah. Well, like you, I had an idea. I'd love to write a book, and I can procrastinate with the best of us, or used to. I should be the queen of procrastination. I thought, right, if I challenge myself, I'm more likely to get it done. And at the time, I wasn't on LinkedIn, I was on Facebook. So I thought, right, I'm going to document every day how I'm feeling and how it's going. And I decided on the 28th of May, no idea how to write a book or how to go about it. But I decided that I was going to start it on the 1st of June, because that's quite a pivotal date, because that's one of my granddaughter's birthdays, who I actually delivered on my daughter's kitchen floor. Yeah, I've got loads of stories. And I want to finish it have it published by the 1st of September, which is mine and my husband's wedding anniversary. So by the 1st of June, I had somebody who was prepared to edit it. I'd got my friend who's a photographer and happened to be a graphic designer for a book company anyway. She said to do the book cover for me, and somebody else said that they'd help me with the tech to upload it onto Amazon. And the actual writing of the book took me a couple of weeks, because once I decided on my chapters, that was it, because it's the stuff I talk about every day, and it's about self-sabotage, and I did the acronym. So thankfully, self-sabotage has got 12 letters in it. So like the first chapter is like self-care. The second one is, the first one's self-talk, sorry. The second one's emotions. The third one's loving yourself. And it goes on through that. And it was more the deciding what picture to have, which font to have, which title to have. But I set up a Facebook group and said, if you're interested in the subject, come along. So people came along on that journey with me. So when I went to publish it, everybody wanted to have a copy, because they felt like they was involved with it as well. But the thing was as well, because I love to get people to think about how they feel about themselves and their beliefs, I thought, if I do this in 90 days and show people what's possible in 90 days, I want other people to think about what they could do in 90 days. Now, I'm not the sort of person saying, I wrote a book and published it in 90 days so you can, because you may not want to in 90 days, but what could you do in the next 90 days? And it was really interesting, because people were saying to me, oh, you're really brave. I couldn't do that. But within a few weeks of me starting it and talking about it and documenting it, people were saying, I've started an idea for my book. I've got a title for my book. Somebody went for a promotion. Somebody went for their dream job. And I even had somebody say, well, I've wanted to ask somebody for a coffee for a long time, but I kept putting it off. But your enthusiasm and idea of like challenging yourself, I'm going to ask them out for a coffee. So to me, the book was a success before it was even published, because other people were thinking what they could do and changing their beliefs about how they thought about themselves.
And if you'd have started putting, I'm doing this in 90 days, you should.
Yeah.
You didn't. You showed them. You didn't tell them what to do, right?
Yeah.
And you just led by example, and they followed because they were like, wow, they were inspired by what you've done and how you did it. And yeah, I think that's amazing. So where can people find the book? And you're going to have to, I'm literally looking at the title on my page. I've got loads of words on there, and I'm trying to find the title in the middle, and I found it. So it says, you can have it, How to Break the Self-Sabotage Cycle, and it's available on Amazon, right? Anywhere else?
Yes. No, it's just available at Amazon.
Cool. I mean, to be fair, it's one of the
most
biggest
countries,
shops
so
in
yeah.
the world, right? That's amazing. So, how can people find out more about you then, Brooke, and kind of find out like if you've got people that want to work with you and kind of try and crack those beliefs?
They
so
can
forth?
either contact me by email at brooke at brookebownes.com, or they can connect with me on LinkedIn, because that's where I hang about the most nowadays.
Hang out
So,
on LinkedIn.
yeah,
Amazing. I'll put your details and so forth in the bottom of the show notes. But really, really, thank you so much, Brooke. I've got one question for you, and I think this is definitely very poignant for you. I've asked people a lot of this question a lot. If you already knew the answer, what would be the question?
oh, if I already knew the answer, what would
Such
be
a
the
backwards question. I love it.
Yeah, if I already knew the answer, what would be the question? Am I good enough?
Beautiful. I love that. Thank you, Brooke. You're an
Because
absolute
everybody
superstar.
is.
Everybody is. I love that. Everybody is good enough. Thank
Yeah,
you, Brooke. You're an absolute superstar. I'm going to get a copy of your book. I'm going to go on Amazon and going to go and order it.
brilliant. Thank you for having me. I've enjoyed chatting to you.
A pleasure.
And that wraps up today's episode of the Coffee, Chaos and Confidence podcast. Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed today's episode, please make sure you like and subscribe. It helps other listeners find the show. Also, go and check out the show notes to learn more about my incredible guests. Until next time, make sure you chase your dreams without limitations.